Alright, good morning to those in India, mainly southeastern India and the entirety of Sri Lanka. Today we're going to be discussing Tropical Storm Ditwa. Let me just make sure everything's going good with the internet connection. It seems like it is. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. We are trying to hit 6,000 by the end of the year, and we might just be able to do it. We are closing in on 5.6k. Should hit that in the next couple of days. So once again, we're going to be discussing Ditwa. And if you have any questions about that storm, you can always ask them in the chat, and I will answer them towards the later part of the update. Let's make sure the posting's going on. Hello, Michael, and hello, Richie. Alright, let's get into it. So here's a look at the latest forecast cone on Tropical Storm Ditwa. It is currently centered over around the central province of Sri Lanka, and it is going to be moving towards the north central and northern provinces in Sri Lanka before exiting by around hour 36. By hour 36, it will be entering back into the Bay of Bengal, where it could see some slight re-intensification as it nears southeastern India, mainly around, let me pull this up again, nearly around Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh, those two areas, where it could potentially make a landfall as a tropical storm. Then by day 4, it will be weakening down to a tropical depression, and by day 5, it should be downgraded to a remnant low at that point. Again, this forecast is quite uncertain, because we don't know what it's going to look like by the time it enters the Bay of Bengal again, and how much land interaction is the system going to have to deal with. Alright. Now, let's discuss the threat level of impacts that some of these areas could see. So starting off with marginal impacts, and what do I mean by that? Well, expect minor tropical impacts with brief periods of gusty winds and some rain. A few branches may come down and minor street flooding is possible. That will include regions of around, this would be Andhra Pradesh right in here, as well as portions, pretty much the entirety of Tamil Nadu is in that at least marginal category of impacts, and the entirety of Sri Lanka is also in that marginal category. Stepping it up now to slight impacts, it does include the southern portions, mainly southeastern portions of Andhra Pradesh, as well as the eastern two-thirds of Tamil Nadu in southeastern India. And for Sri Lanka, it pretty much includes the entirety of Sri Lanka minus the far southeastern provinces there. And what do we mean by slight impacts? Well, noticeable storm conditions possible with gusts capable of knocking down tree limbs and causing power outages. Localized flooding may affect low spots. Now let's up it to the moderate category, and this is going to be for flooding. So flooding of neighborhoods and small rivers are possible, making some roads impassable. That will include the far eastern and far eastern coast of Tamil Nadu, as well as portions of Sri Lanka, mainly the north central, northern, northwestern, central, and western provinces of Sri Lanka. Now, there is a category here of major impacts which are expected, and what do I mean by that? Well, life-threatening flooding is possible in vulnerable areas, and that will include the northwestern province of Sri Lanka. Alright. Now, let's take a brief look at the global view of tropics right now, since there's a decent amount going on. We, of course, have Tropical Storm Koto here, which is meandering near Vietnam. It has significantly weakened since yesterday. It's now down to a weak tropical storm. It could weaken even further, but it could see another peak as a typhoon before it nears Vietnam. We also have a disturbance here in the western Pacific, now with a 30% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 70% chance over the next 7 days. That is looking like it has a chance to potentially curve out to sea, but it just as easily could just plow through the Philippines within the next 7 days. So I will keep you all updated on that. Then looking at Senyar over here, the remnants have crossed over in the western Pacific, and they have around a 30% chance of redevelopment into a tropical cyclone. This might be one of the first times in history that a tropical cyclone has crossed over into the basin. And of course, we have Tropical Storm Ditwa here with winds of around 45 miles an hour. That is going to be meandering towards India. And other than that, though, there's not really anything else going on. There could be a signal in the Australian region beyond the 7-day range. Other than that, though, it's pretty much calming down. Now, looking at the latest visible satellite imagery on Ditwa, we can see a broad circulation currently located over the southeastern portions of Sri Lanka, mainly around Uva province. there, but a lot of the convection, a lot of the thunderstorms are on the northwestern side. That's why, as I showed you all in the graphic earlier here, southeastern Sri Lanka isn't going to see as severe additional impacts compared as the western portion, northwestern province there. And we can just see the banding, how it's very lopsided on the northwestern side, also impacting far southeastern portions of India. Looking at the latest infrared imagery, we can see that dry slot now impacting portions of southeastern Sri Lanka. That doesn't mean that they aren't getting gusty conditions, but they are getting at least a break, quite a big break from heavy rainfall. More of those torrential rainfall rates are now near far northern eastern province and northern province in Sri Lanka. Now, discussing the waters, it isn't really over water right now, but the waters around it are around 28 degrees Celsius, and it's going to be that way pretty much throughout its entire life as it nears India and then curves off towards the east. Pretty much going to be quite warm for it and favorable. In terms of other environmental factors, shear is going to be in that little to moderate category, but it will be increasing into the high category over the next 3 days or so. That's why it is expected to weaken. Sea surface temperatures, not really going to be too much of a problem. It's in the moderate category. Dry air will become much more of a problem beyond the 3-day range. Now, looking at distances from certain provinces here. So it's on the northern portions of Sri Lanka, currently centered around North Central province there, and it's around, it's around 80 to 90 kilometers away from Northern Province, and it's around 290 kilometers away from Tamil Nadu, and now down to 600 kilometers away from Andhra Pradesh. Right now, let's take a look at the various model runs on this system, starting off with the HWRF model run, what it is forecasting the system to do. Am I looking at the wrong system? Yes, I am. Okay. Let's pull up Ditwah here. So does it intensify at all? Not really. It just stays a sloppy tropical storm all the way up until it makes landfall in India around Tamil Nadu. Looking at the other model runs, like the HAFS A model run, is it showing any intensification? No, not really, just a sloppy mess. Again, the biggest threat with the system is going to be the rainfall, and you can just see this huge band of heavy to torrential rainfall on the northwestern side that will be impacting the southeastern coast of India. Right now, looking at the various model runs, the deterministic model runs, the European run does have it moving more to the west, making landfall in Tamil Nadu before eventually dissipating. The latest American run is showing it just continuing to weaken all the way up until it nears Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh there. And then looking at the latest Canadian model run, this was the one that was more on the eastern side of things, and it seems like it's staying consistently more on the eastern side before it eventually makes a hook back over, it makes a loop and a hook back west towards Tamil Nadu. Looking at the latest German run, it does not have the storm making a landfall, at least initially, during the next 3 days, but it does hook back west towards far southern Andhra Pradesh in the next 4 to 5 days. Now, looking at the various ensemble members, these are the European ensemble members. It's pretty much split 50-50 if it stays on the western side and moves into India, or if it stays on the eastern side and curves away. Looking at the American ensembles, should see a pretty much similar setup here. None of them become anything too strong, fortunately. Now, looking at the probabilities on where it's expected to go here, again, looks like it could just be curving right along the coast of India. Could briefly brisk the coastline. Then lastly, I want to take a look at the European AI model and what it is forecasting the system to do. So it does become a little bit better organized as it's entering into the Bay of Bengal, but after it enters the Bay of Bengal, it just continues to deteriorate. It makes landfall somewhere around the border between Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh. Now let's talk rainfall. How much additional rainfall is the system expected to dump across areas of Sri Lanka and southeastern India? Let's start off with the European run and its forecast. So, for Sri Lanka, the highest amounts of rain are going to be in the western and northern portions of Sri Lanka here, with rainfall totals exceeding a foot of rain. That'd be up to over 300 to 400 millimeters of rain in some spots, but more areas are going to be seeing around 100 to 300 millimeters of rain. Parts of far southeastern India, the closer you are to the coast, the higher of a chance you are to get some higher rainfall totals. Up to around 200 to 300 millimeters are possible in some areas of far eastern Tamil Nadu. Switching gears now over to the American run, this is more so on the western side of Sri Lanka. Some of these rainfall totals are lower, fortunately, only up to 160 millimeters. But areas in India does extend pretty far inland. Some areas could see up to 200 millimeters, quite a bit far inland in Andhra Pradesh. Switching over to the German run now. Again, it's a little bit more on the western side now. Western Sri Lanka gets up to 300 to 400 millimeters of rainfall. In far eastern Tamil Nadu, up to 400 millimeters of rain possible there. And also parts of the northern areas of that province as well. Same amounts, up to 200 to 300 millimeters. Then lastly, swapping over to the axis model, it's a little bit more on the eastern side, northeastern Sri Lanka, up to 300 millimeters of rain. Even portions of Andhra Pradesh could see up to 300 to 400 millimeters of rainfall as well. The closer you are to the coast, the higher of a chance you are going to be seeing those rainfall totals. Then let's see if there's any interesting trends that the system has. Has it been trending any direction? Looks like it's been trending a little bit more to the west on the most recent model runs. So getting a little bit closer to making a potential landfall in India. Seems more likely it would be making landfall in Tamil Nadu than Andhra Pradesh, just based on the shape of the coastline. Then lastly, let's take a look at the Google AI Ensemble members. Discussing that again, it's pretty much going to be moving parallel to the coastline before hooking back to the south, looks like, as it then dissipates within the next 5 days or so. Looking over in, let's see if there's anything interesting to pull up here. Well, looking over at the Western Pacific at Koto, it is down to a weak to severe tropical storm, but it is expected to intensify back to a typhoon before we're doing a loop-de-loop near Vietnam before eventually most of those ensemble members have it hooking back towards Vietnam. Now let's discuss the elephant in the room. This system, this mess right over here. This is going to be quite a concern for the Philippines. Let's hope it curves out to sea. There is a chance that the system could just hook off towards the north and go out to sea. There's a trough that's going to be trying to pull it out. Now, if the system's on the northern side of it, it could get hooked out and pulled out to sea. However, if the trough isn't strong enough and the timing isn't right and the storm's more on the southern end, the system will be headed straight towards the Philippines. So let's discuss kind of a timing forecast here. So we should see the low pressure area develop a lot more by the time we get to Saturday morning. By Saturday nights, it's still likely just a low pressure area, nothing to be too concerned about. Then by the time we get to around, let's say Monday morning, that's around the time it's passing through the Mariana Islands, around Guam. Still just probably getting close to tropical storm status by then. Going into Monday night, likely a tropical storm, and then by around Tuesday night, it could be approaching typhoon intensity. Then going further in time, or around Wednesday morning, could be approaching Category 2 status. And then going in time here, around the peak of it, seems to be around Thursday morning is when it's going to be potentially a major typhoon, Category 3 or stronger. A lot of these members are hinting at a Category 5 super typhoon out of the system. But then skipping ahead even further, down to around Friday morning, more of these ensemble members are showing a weaker system. Generally, the consensus is Category 1 making landfall in the Philippines within the next 8 days or so. Again, we'll have more updates on this system over the next few days, and it could be making landfall as a super typhoon as well. I'm not going to exclude that possibility. See all these purple members, those are super typhoon intensity. You can see them, some of them moving through Manila, Luzon, the Bicol region, central Philippines, the Visayas region as well. It's pretty uncertain, but we are growing in confidence there. 70% chance that the system will become a tropical cyclone over the next 7 days at least. Then beyond that, it could be approaching Vietnam, so another system impacting the Vietnams could be in the forecast for you during the next 10 days, but I will continue to keep you updated on that system. Anyways, now let's answer some questions. Yes, Ditwah did become a tropical cyclone, yes, and that next system could become a super typhoon. Let's see, have I done Typhoon Rai? I swear I've animated Typhoon Rai. Let me just double check. Just want to make sure I've done... Yes, I have animated Typhoon Rai. That was one of my first animations I've ever done. That was around 3 years ago or so. So if you want to see that, I have animated that storm. I could make a version 2, I guess. All right, let's see what else. Ditwah stalling, yes, it's moving very slow right now. If we take a look at some of the winds on how quickly it's been moving over the past, let's say 8 hour, 6 hours or so, 6 or 7 hours, how fast has it been moving during that amount of time? Oh, okay, it's already on kilometers. Okay. In the past 6 hours or so, it's been moving 30 kilometers, so around 5 kilometers an hour it's been moving over Sri Lanka, so very slowly. You could run faster than that easily. Alright, so that looks like that's all the questions for today. Again, the next update will probably be tomorrow, potentially, if the system still is remaining a major threat to portions of Sri Lanka. I feel like, though, that the next update, maybe in 2 days or so, maybe a little bit longer than that, we'll mainly start shifting our focus again from Ditwa over to Koto in this next system, the Western Pacific, which the Philippine name would be Wilma. And those who, if you know, you know, in the Atlantic. Well, anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next updates. Stay safe.